I'm Michelle Nykirk, and I am a member here. I'm married to Pete Nykirk, and I have 2 kids, Joshua and Morgan. I guess starting with Josh, and when he was born, we found out that he had Down syndrome. We didn't know that prior to the birth, and that was a pretty traumatic experience. They gave him to me only for, it felt like maybe 30 seconds. It wasn't very long. And then whisked him away and told me that he might die and that he might not even live. They were just saying he had complications and they had to take him away. I didn't know if he was gonna live or not. I didn't get to hold him. He was in the incubator, and I couldn't even take him out. I couldn't touch him. I couldn't hold him. I remember being afraid to bond with him a bit because not knowing if he was going to live or not, and not having him for days. I just didn't get that immediate connection that I had with my daughter Morgan when she was in the room with me the whole time. When it's really difficult times that you don't know how you're gonna get through, is when I feel God the closest to me. I can see how God was leading me through all of that. I had cancer when I was 17 in high school. I had Hodgkin's disease, and the radiation from the Hodgkin's disease caused the breast cancer, and I found out because I knew I was supposed to have mammograms early from the Hodgkin's disease, and they caught it on my very first one. It was totally God's timing, I think, going through that, and I definitely have seen, having been through that, there have been multiple times when women have come to me or asked me about it, and I've been able to help other women through that. I know that it's true, the Bible verse where it says that you go through it so that you can encourage other people. I have lived that over and over again. You know, had my life been different, I probably wouldn't have been as involved in that. And had I not had breast cancer, I wouldn't have been able to walk other women through it. Just God has shown me so many times how He can use the challenging times, and how much love and support I have felt, and hopefully can give to others when they go through the difficult times. I just felt so loved, and I knew that was God that was just sort of bringing people out of the woodwork. It's hard to describe it. It felt like almost a physical hug. It was just the love was so tangible, and I know that was God supporting me and getting me through.
I'm Chad Mossman.
And I'm Kristen Mossman. And we had our struggle with infertility. We had 9 miscarriages over 5 years. So we had our first loss, and I think it just wakes you up. Like, for me personally, it was very much just like, oh, like this isn't just my timeline. Like, I just was gonna live my merry little life, and then the second one came, and another loss, and you're like, okay, I guess I really didn't get it the first time, and you're like, I got it this time though, and it just, like, after the third one, we started infertility treatments, and your life's just really in limbo, and
it wasn't something that I could fix, right? I couldn't, and then to also see the fact that the doctors couldn't fix it either. that was really like, what's going on? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to best support Kristen, other than being there. But I wanted to be more than being there. I wanted to fix it, and it couldn't.
And finally, it got to a point where it was like, okay, like we've had 8 miscarriages, and it's like, okay, we need to move on. So after 2.5 years of trying, we looked into the process of adoption and began that process. We waited a year and we got a call, and we met a birth mom. We were matched with the birth mom for a month, and then she decided that she was going to parent. That was probably our lowest point. The same week, we lost a match of adoption and we had a miscarriage. And you just go through so many years. It's like all you want is a baby, and people all around you, are able to have that, and you're doing all these things, and you don't know where your life is. It just seems like you pray and there was no answers, and it was like, do we need to move on? Do we
stop? Do we
stop?
go? Which way do we go?
So 5 months later, we got another call to meet a birth mom, and it went really well.
Mm-hmm.
And a month later, our son was born. We got to be there for the birth. It was amazing. And so 2 months later, we found out I was pregnant. Totally expected to miscarry. And all of our other miscarriages had happened really quickly after finding out. So when we passed, 10 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know how long it was, yeah.
Okay, this might legitimately happen. So Zachary was born.
So, yeah.
Crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, we have 2 babies under 1 year old.
Yep.
So just absolutely bizarre to see how God works. And then 2 years later, we had Lauren. And so 3 babies under 4 years old, and just crazy.
How quickly just the blessings were just poured out on our family, and all of a sudden, that longing we had for so long was just filled more than we could have imagined.
Yeah, still stops us in our tracks a lot.
As tough as it is, and it definitely was. There's that piece of knowing that Jesus has already won it all, and he even tells us that it's going to be tough, right? In this world you will have trouble, right? But I've overcome the world, he says. So just that piece of knowing this is really tough, but he became human and didn't necessarily didn't have infertility, right? But he had tough and knew tough, and he'll see us through. And it was really hard to see going through it, but it's really awesome to see looking back, and almost feel some bit of shame for not believing as deeply as we should have, and trusting as much as we should have. But now so thankful that he did it anyway, So.
Hi, my name is Stefan. So our 4.5-month-old had just had spinal cord surgery, and she had some residual care that we didn't know was going to happen. And at the time, we didn't know if that was going to be temporary or permanent, but we just went with it, just taking care of her. And then 2 months later, my husband, who was the main provider for our family, got laid off from his job and lost his job. And then 2 weeks after that, my brother, who was with his 3rd diagnosis of cancer, they found out the chemo wasn't working anymore and recommended him for hospice care. So during that time, my husband didn't have a job, we had stuff going on with our daughter, and then my brother was essentially dying. we didn't worry as much about my husband's job. Like, I felt like that was like the least of our worries during everything else. And I think we just both knew that him being laid off was gonna be a blessing in disguise. And it truly was, because he didn't find a job for 6 weeks, but that was 6 weeks that I got to spend with my brother, help my family out, and just be around him as much as possible. Because after those 6 weeks, my husband found a job, and a month later is when my brother died. So that's time that we spent with him that, you know, we'll never get back again. So, and that our friends and our family, they would just show up. They brought meals, they brought food, they helped with our kids, just anything and everything. Even when we didn't know they were coming, they'd just show up. So, and then my husband threw everything for me with my brother. It was just incredible. Like, God knew what he was doing when he paired us up, because I needed him a lot during all that time. And he just dove in and did everything without asking. And since he's not here, I could say it's pretty amazing, but don't tell him. I think the biggest thing is to keep doing, keep going. And the hugest thing is to really lean on like your church family, lean on God's word, lean on your prayers. Like, if we've said so many times during that time and now years later, if we didn't have, like, what do people do who don't have God to turn to or know that heaven is next? My family and my extended family, like, we have never felt like God's presence more than we did during that time. Like, it just was like a huge weighted blanket, just constantly comforting us, letting us know that we weren't alone, and he was there for us. And during that whole time, my brother's like final like weekend days, we knew it wasn't goodbye. It was just see you later. That the next time we'll see him, there's not gonna be cancer. He's just gonna be perfect. So, yeah.
So do you want me to read the psalm part or just? Okay. You turned my wailing into dancing.
You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy.
That my heart may sing your praises and not be silent.
Lord my God, I will praise you forever.
Lord my God, I will praise you forever.
Lord my God, I will praise you forever.